I think there were a kind of a long progression of innovations that are occurring from way back firewalls and then kind of moving towards endpoints. I'd say now it's a lot of the innovations that are developing around how do you manage all that data that's coming from all of those myriad systems to make sense out of it and to enable humans, analysts, to be more effective so that they're not doing as much, forensic. So I say that that's probably the new frontier. Plus helping agencies to more effectively deliver and deploy those kinds of services. Used to be you had to put all this stuff in yourself, but now we're seeing more, kind of cloud-based security kinds of tools, which we think is going to assist organizations in not having shelfware. You're going to get more stuff deployed more quickly and then really begin to focus on using the tools as opposed to deploying them. There's certainly a lot of hype about machine learning and automation. We're probably sort of at the peak of the hype cycle there. But I really do think that those technologies are, very practical. I had mentioned sort of how do you manage all of this security data that's coming in. I mean, it's just not possible for human analysts to do it all. And so, if you can train a machine through machine learning techniques to kind of help pick through and assess risk and identify key areas that then are providing sort of a shorter punch list or hit list for human analysts to then go figure out, well, yeah, let me go now focus on those areas. I think that that's a very practical application of sort of reducing the data set to something that's usable. And then on the automation front, certainly, a lot of our customers in government have, very, very, very large networks. And so, how do you go fix things? How do you get them, addressed? And, a lot of times there's a long list of things that are pretty risky and it takes days or weeks in order to root them out. I think you have to begin to look at how you can apply automation techniques to kind of fixing those things, more readily, by hitting a button, or maybe even where, they kind of go do it themselves. And I think there's more receptivity to that as you get more confidence in the data that is coming from those systems. So I think those two things work hand in hand. Threat intelligence, as you know, is sort of a collection and a kind of a modeling of data that you're capturing, usually from internet-based sources. You're looking at bad actors, you're looking at anomalous behavior, and then you're trying to deliver that intelligence to your clients, who are usually enterprises or agencies, so that they can use it. So one of the key things I think is, you do have to kind of make that a little bit more automated. You have to understand what parts of the network should that apply to, because I may not care about threat intelligence applied to a guest wireless network, but I may really care about it a lot if it's applied to a classified infrastructure. So my view is that you really got to try to understand first is what is your infrastructure, what is your network, what are your critical assets, and then how do you want to apply the threat intelligence to those things that are most important to you. And then I think you also need to think about how can you sort of automate that process of analysis so that it's not so manual. And a lot of times there's a divide between what is analyzed on the internet and public IPs and URLs, and how do you trace that down to my private network infrastructure that has, sort of a different IP networking and, different clustering of critical assets. So I think organizations need to leverage tools to help them do that mapping between, yeah, this is occurring on the internet, but it actually came from this network, which is a critical asset. Ooh, let me go fix that. I think that the executive order on cybersecurity, really brought a lot of awareness to the subject, to the topic. That was probably the biggest thing. While there's been a lot of talk over the past decade about cybersecurity, here now you have sort of a mandate from the key executive in the country that's saying you really got to focus on this. This is a critical issue. I think it also helps to give security teams within agencies, within organizations, more weight and more ability perhaps to gain budget, and it raises their stature within the organizations to communicate the issues and to go implement the plans and processes. So I think taken together, it was a very important step, and I think it will help improve overall and unify sort of the importance of security throughout government agencies.